Let me test it again. See what they talking about. They say we not live. So we got to, like it's all this extra stuff we got to do. It's all this extra stuff to make sure that we're actually live. I should do it on my thing. Okay. I think we're live. I think that we're live. Hopefully we're live, girl. It say that, I don't know. Let me look. It's getting on my nerves. See, we finna talk about it today. We finna talk about it today, honey. We're gonna talk about mental health. We're talking about, okay, we're live. Okay, we're talking about mental health in the Black community. Okay, you see it. All right, but it's gonna be lighthearted. Okay, so yesterday we went live and we talked about the movie Straws. Okay, and I had a whole dissertation on the movie and mental health, and I compared it and contrasted it with what was that movie? Set It Off. Okay, but I want to touch a little lightly on mental health in our community because I feel like we're getting there. We're getting there as far as like as a collective, we're doing right by our mental health and our mental states and different things of that nature. But I feel like I just got to drive it home one more time. I just got to hit it one more. I have to because I feel like we take our mental health peace of mind. I feel like we take that for granted. You could easily be in your right mind, but you could you could not be in your right mind. It's so fragile. Your brain is so fragile. Okay, listen. So, hold up. Let me make sure I got my notes. Make sure I got my notes because I feel like we take it seriously, but we don't. I also feel like we don't always, unless we go and seek that help. We don't always know what's wrong with the situation. Like, before I was diagnosed or whatever, I was just moody. And I watched it, really what sparked it, I watched Kev on Stage Instagram, and he was talking about all the different names we have for like real medical conditions. Like these are real things that happen to real people. Like this is a real diagnosis, right? And we just call it different. My favorite one is things are getting on my nerves. Like I say it all, like things just be irritating. Like things are irritating, irritable, like that. Though that's my thing. The nerves. It has to do with that. My anxiety, like all of that. And it's just kind of like, I feel like we are late getting the diagnosis because we have learned to live life. Not, you know what I mean? Like when you start feeling some type of way, you know what I mean? Like when you start feeling some type of way, you have to explain, well, what does that feel like? Well, like when something is getting on your nerves, you have something in your throat. Like you feel like you have something in your throat. Your heart is racing. You know what I mean? Like your blood start to boil, like all of that. I'm sorry. It's not funny, but it's just kind of like all these different things, and it's hard to explain that to a doctor because they wouldn't, like, you just be like, this is how I feel, right? And people are so dismissive of other people, especially Black women, our feelings and how we, you know what I mean? Like our feelings don't matter, or we can be dismissive of our own feelings, right? So yeah, heart palpitations, heart racing, irritable, things just, unexplained reasons of crying or whatever, or just feeling like you need to cry, not wanting to leave the house, not wanting to leave your bed, wanting to stay in the room, you know what I'm saying? Not cleaning, sugar, wanting to eat some sugar, wanting to eat or not eating, like all of these different things are symptoms of a larger picture, but we don't have names for these things, right? We have names, but when we say it out loud, you in your mood, so it kind of like makes it not as serious as we think it is, and that's the other thing, like we're talking about how if you change the name, then you change the perception of the problem. The problem is still there, but we called it something different. And so the problem is not giving, it's not as extreme. Like when you say you in your mood, you in your period, you just leave that person alone, right? You just leave that person alone, move on. But sometimes people need to talk. Sometimes people need to be in the presence of other people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like we write the feelings off. We write the feelings off. We don't get the help early because it's the history of not going to the doctor, but then also not wanting that stigma that comes with, having a label. We don't want to be labeled. We don't want nobody have a sheet of paper, a notebook, a file with all these different letters next to the name. You know what I'm saying? We have always been able to make do with whatever we got. We just gonna handle it in-house. We don't need to see outside professionals, okay? Because we gonna handle it inside the house, right? We don't need all these people asking questions. And that is a problem as well, because when you start looking at the diagnosis, people are asking questions, got checklists, they got clipboard with a little pencil and everything, you know what I'm saying? They checking it off. We have to start looking at the environment in which that is contributing to these things, and then we have to reconcile with the fact that our environments might not be the best, but even with our environments not being the best, it's not gonna be like, oh, your parents are bad, da da da. It might be they don't have time to be good parents because they got to go to work, right? So they live in this system as a whole, right? And so, I don't know. I just feel like we as a people, we do better at making do with what we have. We probably know something wrong. Something wrong with Granny. Okay, she likes to keep a lot of things. She just likes to go and pick up things and just organize them, and certain things have to be a certain type of way, right? We just let her do her thing. You can't have no droplets of water in the sink. Things have to be OCD, but we joke about it. But then you got your grandfather. He liked the little train set. He liked to do his little thing, like to put stuff together, tinkering around with different things. In our movies, head can't get right. He just, what I'm saying? We have little names for the things, but it's just like we handle stuff like that in-house. We don't really go down to the doctor like that. I feel like right now it's not, we have more diagnosis, is that we are seeking the help. I feel like we have always, like, the rate of mental wellness or mental illness or whatever the case may be has always been the same. I just think that we have a surge of us seeking the help and going to the medical professionals because we're finding it very much so harder, and we have access to medical health care to be able to do that, right? We have the access and the money as well, and so we are seeking the access. And we have access to information. Like back then, they probably didn't know the name for anxiety. They probably, you know what I mean? Like they didn't have the name for all these different things. Like if you couldn't get your life together, they had a belt. They had a belt for that. They say boys will be boys, where you straighten up with a belt, all that other stuff, right? And so that was how they dealt with it. I feel like they just didn't have that awareness that we do have now, and I think that is really good. We have to address it. So hold on, let me check my notes, make sure I'm not going off the scripts. Okay. So something that I saw was that in Black women, or just women overall, we have symptoms of ADHD, and they oftentimes go undiagnosed because we deal with internal versus the boys deal with external. So boys, I already know, they cannot sit in one spot, but I wouldn't necessarily write it off as ADHD. Maybe they ADHD, yes, but they're active. You know what I mean? Like they are active. They need to get the energy because that's just their biology, right? That's just me being an educator. I'm not a, mental health professional, but all I'm saying is they supposed to be running around, burn that off, you know what I mean? And they'll be fine. Like they need to do stuff. We as women and girls, we are more internal. We want to write stuff down. We want to talk. We're more social as it relates to, just being around people, having a conversation, more social in that area, having friends, being light, being pretty, colors and art. That's what we like to do. Boys like to do the sports. Not saying that we're normalizing or conforming to, gender roles and all this other stuff, but that's just basically like what you see in a school. So I wouldn't automatically write the child off as having ADHD. You know what I mean? Unless after he went outside and he came back and he is still having fun. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like we're not giving the kids space and opportunity to utilize the energy, and I feel like that's why we don't get diagnosed at early ages when we're younger, because, is it or is it not? We're not mental health, but we just like, you kind of have to, because we don't write everything off as being a problem. We're used to having problems, right? We're used to having problems. So the way in which we would address a problem would be, if he's moving too much, then maybe he needs something to do. That's the first thing that we would think of. We wouldn't automatically be like, he need a prescription. That is not something that we would do. We would try to come up with different other things. Like maybe he needs to be in STEM. He needs to be walking around, moving around. He needs to be doing something. He's not supposed to be sitting in no chair that long. You know what I mean? Like, that's me. That's what I think. Like, if I'm in the classroom and you have a child that is active, he's active, well, I'm gonna give him something to do. He needs a job. He needs to be employed. That's what, because he needs something else to do. I'm not gonna be like, oh, he's fidgeting too much and he da-da-da-da and make it seem like he the problem. You see what I'm saying? He might have something going on, but I don't know that. I'm just the educator. He need a job. So I'm going to keep him busy, and y'all can handle that when y'all get home. And then if I can't handle it, I'm going to say, hey, I ran out of things for him to do. Is there anything that you need? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just feel like in our community, again, we handle things in-house, right? But what happened when the house is breaking down, right? And what happened when you're trying to make yourself okay in a terrible situation? Like the systems that we live in, like if you watch the news, if you turn on social media and you look at anything that's happening on the news globally and everything like that, we are trying to make ourselves stable in an unstable world. Things around the world is not working out right. You know what I'm saying? So it makes me wonder if you're crazy in a crazy world. Are you really crazy, or are you reacting to what's happening in the world or in your situation, right? And so that's another thing. So in our communities, we have to address what would cause PTSD. Why would you have PTSD? You know what I'm saying? What would be going on in there? We don't want to get a diagnosis, because if we get a diagnosis, we got people asking us questions, then we risk losing, right? The family might break down because they asking all these questions, and then that would force us to, wow, this is going on, something's wrong with my child, something wrong with my family member, this is what's going on in the family. Now we have to address what's going on in the family, because now we have broken somebody's psyche, we have broken somebody's head right now. You see what I'm saying? And so I think it's easier to just write it off and just say this is this, or it's not, or just be like, oh, it's not as bad as we think it is, right? Rather than to address the things that are happening, the contributing factors that lead to you having some type of a mental illness. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I got the premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And I'm going to equate that to every time my period comes, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. But here we are right now, and we are not at work. We're not at work. I am medicated. But here's the thing. I feel great. I feel wonderful. And for me, I look at it like my cycle always told me something that I needed to know. I know. Now on the paper, let me read what they said. It's hormonal health and mental health. It is a severe cyclical mood disorder linked to menstruations, okay? Often misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder or just bad PMS. That's what we thought we had, right? Okay, how it affects mental wellness: depression, rage, hopelessness, isolation. It could be for 1 or 2 weeks every month, okay? Unique challenges for Black women: dismissal by the OBGYN. Well, if you're not going like you wouldn't catch that. You probably, like, I don't go to the doctor. I probably go once a year. You see what I'm saying? Once a year. I don't get sick that often. I don't go off to the doctor. I have my herbs and spices. I sound like I'm from Mississippi because I am. Listen, lack of access to specialists, silence around menstruations in the Black. Listen, every time I got my cycle, I was in my room by myself. I did not go to school like that, at least not on the first day. The first day we was at home. We was in our room by myself. I was always like a loner. I don't really like being around a lot of people anyway, but around that cycle, no. But for me, experiencing it, it's just like, I felt like my cycle always told me, I always got information that I needed to get around my cycle. I don't know what it was. I would just get information. And the information was not good information, in my opinion. Like, I would always break up with a boyfriend around my cycle. I was always, quitting my job. That when we started being an adult, that was the perfect time to quit. But it's just like, you can't go through life Xing people out, but at the same time, if you're in a situation that you're not supposed to be in, and you find out that you're not supposed to be in the situation, or there's a problem, and you have to come up with a way to fix it. First way to fix it: get out of it. Get out of the situation, right? But what happens when you can't quit your job and you have to be at work because you have to take care of you have a life to maintain. You have children, you have different things. People just can't, right? So they seek the mental health professionals. You seek the prescriptions and the doctors and different things of that nature. And yes, we do need that, but it's just like, we have to address the contributing factor, which is going to be, we trying to make stuff perfect. It ain't gonna ever be perfect the way we want to. So we have to work that much harder to find that happiness. We're gonna talk about that tomorrow, on Friday. What's the day? That's why I have, y'all can't see it. Y'all, if you see my other video, I have a calendar on the wall. I have a planner right here. I have a planner. I got notebooks. I got paper everywhere. Listen, on the outside looking in, people think that I always have it together. When I'm at work, people think that I have it together. I can get things done like no other, right? But I'm not the cleanest. Right? I be having stacks of paper everywhere. I have to write things down. I have to have notes. I have to have stuff. I have to have it my certain type of way. When we say certain type of way, that sounds like OCD. You got to have things a certain type of way. What exactly? So when we're talking to doctors, we want to make sure that there's you got to talk to a Black doctor or cultural, make sure there's some type of cultural connection. Because if you're talking to the doctor, they not going to know what you're talking about. That's why we need Black doctors, because they don't know what we're talking about. We tell them we need our stuff certain type of way. We getting heart palpitations in here. Heart palpitations is like a specific heartbeat, but we like to say it because it rolls off the tongue real nice. But if you're not kept abreast on communication, different terms and things that we say, then you're not going to understand it, right? Like when you feel some type of way, what type of way is that? But it's all about how you say it in a sentence. Like if you are talking about something that's irritating, and you would know whether or not something was irritating based off, you have to have the connotation and the denotation. So I love English language arts. That was my favorite subject, okay? And I'm a librarian as well. So the study of language is my favorite thing. Etymology. If you look at how the word is being used, right? And the context in which the story is being told, then you can figure out, that's called figure 19D. That's called making inferences. Okay? Can you tell I was teaching English language arts? If you are listening to the story, the context, then you can figure out what's going on in there. But we don't have mental professionals, doctors that you have to have a cultural a cultural connection so that you will understand our language, so that you will understand how we feel. But if you don't understand how we feel and everything, like you don't, like if we not here, then you're gonna write our stuff off. And so we rather not talk to y'all. We rather, because you don't get it. You don't understand. You looking at us like we crazy. Because I told you I'm having heart palpitation. Like every time I go to work, they getting on my nerves. What are they doing to get on my nerves? They ask me to do stuff that is not in my job description. Okay, not in my job description, and unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectation. When you talk to a child, the child calling you everything except a child of God. And you know what? That would be termed. See, and that's another thing we don't talk about. When we're dealing in our work and different things like that, if you were to talk about or to talk to people crazy, they would quickly call that harassment. But the moment you are trying to defend yourself, they'll try to say, oh, you being sensitive. No. You are being harassed. See, we can't change the name, right? The terminology when the aggressor is you're changing the aggressor. I'm the victim, you're the aggressor. Now we changing. No. It's the same. We have to have the same type of terminology for everybody. Everybody has to have the same thing, Now, children will be children, yes, but at the same time, what happened when we was in the movie with Taraji and her boss was talking to her crazy? Now, in a corporate setting, that might not look like that. It might be more subtle. It might be, people that microaggressions. They have a name for that. Microaggressions. It's aggressive communication and attitude and everything like that. But it's micro. It's subtle. It's something that you don't see right off the bat, if that makes sense. So what do you do then? So I say fight fire with fire. That's what I like to do personally, whereas other people feel like the mental health is having the name or these different things or whatever is a bad thing. I use it to my advantage in the best way that I can. You have accommodations. You have amenities. You have amenities. You do. You have amenities. And so now when you tell people like, hey, I need a moment to myself. No, I have to have a moment to myself. I have to have that. And by law, you are required to give that to me. Yeah. As long as these laws are still on the books, you will abide by it. I get real Denzel in there because you need that. And I'm going to just, let me read on ADHD. It says ADHD in Black women, real signs, overlooked symptoms, and masking. Okay. The symptoms, inattention. It's not laziness. You could be focusing on a whole bunch of things all at the same time. When I was in class, I remember the first time I ever heard it, I was at Howard and I was in honors English language arts, okay? And she was looking at me and I was looking out the sky, but I was in the room and I was paying attention to what was going on, but I was not. I just wasn't trying to give a conversation. So like when you go like your first year of school or whatever, it's like everybody has to do verbal diarrhea and they have to say all of these different things to talk about how smart they are. That's really what it is, right? And I'm not interested in that. So I would rather just give me the syllabus, right? Tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn it in and I'm done. I don't need to have a conversation about every little thing. Like, I don't want to do that. Because I feel like we talking more than we actually, you teaching. You see, you don't want me to be in the room. You don't want me to be in the room. You don't want me to really start saying anything. Because I feel like, you wrote a book and you have made your book the required text. And so now we're reading and, having conversations about your book. One, you just came up at least $1,000, period. And then we are like, are you good? You should be floating on sky high because we're debating your book. I don't want to do that. Now I don't want to critique your writing. I don't want to do all of that. I just want to do my assignment and I just want to go. I'm not going to debate anybody in the room. This is not debate class. This is not debate class. This is English language arts. So, she told me that I need to work on being present. I was present, but I wasn't present in the room. I was listening to everybody, but I'm not going to talk about my internal dialogue because it will ruffle feathers, right? So what am I supposed to do in that situation? I'm just going to sit there. I'm like, yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. But it's like oftentimes we're thinking about so much. So much is going on through our head. No, we're not going to be like, whoop-de-woo. Like, we're not going to do all of that. You can't really tell people how you feel. And oftentimes how you really feel is the cause of the anxiety, okay? Because you feel this specific type of way, but you can't let it show. That's why you got high blood pressure. You got high blood pressure because you feel all these different things in your chest. It's in your chest right there, and your throat, right in your throat chakra. You feel it, but you can't say it. It's only you thinking it. You're thinking it, but you can't let it out. You can't let it out. You got to act normal. And that's why we have mental problem right there, because we're trying to act normal, and we can't. Yeah, hold on, let me do this. I have to fix my wig sometime. Anyway, the other one is saying emotional dysregulation. Okay, basically you overreact and then you hate yourself for it. Now, I don't think, but like, are you overreacting? Did you overreact? Overreaction is subjective, in my opinion. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not. But how I react to things and how you react to things, I don't know. We might overreact, yeah. But at the same time, I feel like for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now, me personally, something that I notice that I do, I don't get you that first time. I like to assess, and I want to make sure that before I get into myself and say what I need to say about it, I want to make sure that, one, you are mentally capable, mentally up there, because maybe you just not there yet, and so I don't want to take things out on you because you are, I need to get some data on you, right? So I need you to continually do stuff, I need to build a case before I go in with what I have to say. So I'm not going to get you that first time. I'm going to give you some grace. I'm going to give you grace. I always give grace. Always. We're giving the grace. Then they act up again. Now we have a pattern of you acting up. Now, we gave you grace 3 times. Now, when I come back, I'm going to get you for those 3 times. Maybe 2.5, because we did give you grace. But it's just kind of like, it depends on what happened, like what happened in the situation. Every action is met with an equal and opposite reaction. And if you build it up too, like, I don't think it's an overreaction. I just don't think that ChatGPT is talking about we overreact. I don't care at the end, because that's how I think about it at the end. You did it. This your fault. That's not my fault. Okay. That's how I need you to do it 1, 2, and 3. And after that is a system, that is a pattern, and now we can move accordingly, right? But I have to assess the situation. Like, are you good? What is your mental state? What are you going through? But here's the thing. Other people don't ever consider other people. Like, the way I would consider other people, I would give grace and different things like that. Grace is not always extended from the other party. People just be doing stuff and they don't care. They don't care how they move. They don't care how all that stuff. Now, because I am spiritual, and I don't feel like you have to be spiritual or whatever, but because I'm spiritual, I know that everybody is in a different, they on a different walk. They're on a different journey. They're on a different mind state. And so everybody, I'm not going to say they're just not there, as far as intelligence, as far as everything. And so you just kind of have to treat people wherever they are. However, you don't know where people are until you interact with them, right? So one little thing, that could be a one-off. So I'm not going to hold that against anybody. But like, when you start doing stuff over and over, it's a pattern. It's a pattern. And now we're learning your character. And now we have to move accordingly. We have to. Now, I try to see the best in all people, but other people don't do that. And I think that's where my irritation comes from, because I care more about people than they seem to care about me. You know what I mean? And so I'm unlearning that. But it's just like, that's something that you can't, like, you You just can't. So what else they saying? They say adult diagnosis. Common signs: burnt out, always overwhelmed, and can't prioritize. Okay? And here's the other part to that though. Are you tired, or are they asking you to do too much work? And this is the first time ever where we're having a real life conversation about y'all asking us for too much and y'all not giving anything else to us. I feel like we're going and we're getting the help because we're trying to make sense of this crazy world. But then what happens when you get on a prescription and you realize that you still feel the same way? Because let me tell you, yeah, I got what? PMDD? Yeah, I got it. Yeah, but I still feel the same. The only difference is now we can't cry. That is the only difference. That's the only difference, y'all. I still be feeling the same type of way. I still be feeling like, you know what? It would be real good if we didn't have to go today. It would be real good if we could just walk down to the park. If we could, and all I be wanting, y'all, is fresh air, and to not have to deal with the people that I have to deal with. You see what I'm saying? All I want to do is do stuff on my time. Now, I will say that I need a routine. I have to have a routine. I have to have time blocking. I have to have things. So when I do things whenever I want to, it has to be regulated. It has to be like, because things would never get done. That's why I have to have, you can't see it because I have the thing, but that's why I have to have a calendar. I have to have a calendar. I have to have a to-do list. I have to have these things because if I didn't have these systems in place, I would never get anything done. But these systems were provided to me by being in school. When I was in school, that's how I learned I need a planner. We gotta have a planner. We gotta have a thing. My mom, educator, gotta have these things. My grandmother, like the way they do things, now I see the way that they do things, and now it has helped me to have, like, we have to have systems in place. When you have systems in place, then it's easier to manage certain things. Now, emotions and stuff, they weren't really good at, the emotions, but now I get why. You know what I mean? I get why. If you're busy, then you can't deal with your emotions, right? If you're always doing something, if you're always tickering and doing this, moving around, then you never sit still and you never deal with your emotions and how you feel. Communication. If you're in a family and you don't communicate, or y'all have different communication styles, then you don't get to say your piece, right? You don't get to say your piece because nobody is able to handle what happens when you say your piece. You see what I'm saying? So you feel like your thoughts and your emotions don't matter because we never talked about it. If every time they ask you a question and they do the opposite, well, now your decisions and what you think we should be doing does not matter. So we have to talk about all of these things that contribute to our mental health or lack thereof when we become an adult or when we even have our own kids, and it starts in those primary years. Yes, all of that, all of that matters. And then also having a supportive community. You guys, having a supportive community has been helpful as well. Being able to talk to somebody, but also somebody, it's not just about talking, because you could talk to people and they won't see your point of view, but being heard and getting like, I understand what you're going through. And then someone being able to be like, oh yeah, I went through that and this is how I dealt with it and So, but everybody don't have support systems. Everybody don't have support systems and community and just open dialogue. And so all of that matters. Okay. And so now chat said other conditions, they have something called CPTSD, okay, which is going to be complex PTSD, right? Childhood or repeated trauma from neglect, racism, and violence. I feel like we all have that, okay? High functioning depression and anxiety. Like you can do everything, but you're falling apart inside. That is my personal favorite. Okay, bipolar 2, often labeled as moody, dramatic, instead of being taken seriously. Okay, and then autism spectrum, late or miss. Yeah, like you can be on the spectrum, all that stuff. Only reason I found out is because I'm at work and I I just can't. Sometimes I just can't. And I don't know, it just got harder and harder, harder and harder to deal with. And the systems were not being like, the system was, when you're about to have your cycle, don't go to work. Well, what happens when you don't have any more days and you have to go to work? So now you have to be there, right? And so, you have to, how do you feel? You can't stop the way you're feeling. You can't, that's how you feel that day. And that's why I feel like we talk about mental health and stuff for students and kids, but we have to talk about it for adults, because adults are the ones driving every day. You the one making sure that the child get the food or learn the lesson and do whatever. You know what I'm saying? So if we are not taking care of ourselves, and we can't take care of our children, we can't take care of the future, we can't take care of nothing. You see what I'm saying? We can't make changes in the world if we can't fix ourselves and take care of ourselves. But then when we take care of ourselves, we fix ourselves as much as we can, and then you go back into the world, and then you go back to getting chipped and broke and fragmented because the world sucks. So then what do? Is it even worth it to, even go through the steps of getting the help or whatever? Because when you go back into the world, they gonna knock you down anyway, right? How much change can you really make? So that's why I believe in just leaving the situation that broke you in the first place, right? But like your job, getting another job, that's hard for some people. Your family. Everybody ain't gonna cut their family off, but luckily for me, I have a family that is supportive and they want to be better, which is good, but everybody doesn't have that. That is a luxury. That is, everybody doesn't have a family that's willing to work through the issues and prioritize being better people. And so that's another thing. And so I don't know, I feel like you have to choose happiness, and that is what we're going to talk about in our next video. We're going to put that on Friday. Perfect time to choose happiness. But I think it's important for us to make sure that we are prioritizing our mental health. If you get diagnosed, right, and you don't, there are accommodations. Okay, I'm going to say on the plus side, there are accommodations for you when you get diagnosed or whatever. Now at your job, you have job and workplace accommodations that they have to provide to you. They have to, within a reasonable amount. And so my favorite one is that, we might not need to be around people all the time. We might not need to be in over any type of situation that would overstimulate us. Like I get, I don't know, I'm not gonna say nervous, but just very, you know what I'm saying? With a lot of noise, a lot of racket. I'm in the library for a reason. Perfect thing for me. It really was. I don't know. God put you right where you're supposed to be at. I like being in a quiet area. Okay? Quiet area. I'm really good at, I can program the TVs. I have I don't know how to explain it. I have a variety of skills that I can do. I'm good with the computers. I program the TVs. I figured out how to do streaming and technology. I'm good at these specific things. There are things that I'm just not able to deal with, and I just don't deal with these things, right? I don't need to be in a high energy area. So I'm not going down to the gym. I'm not going down to the cafeteria. You know what I'm saying? I want to interact with children, but the children have to come in. But it's calm and peaceful. The best I can do is put on Disney Pixar, and we can have lunch and have a wonderful time. Conversation, chill vibes. I can't be in a, you know what I'm saying? Even in testing, quiet. Peace and quiet. Anything outside of that, even with testing, it works because I'm good at following the routine. What are we supposed to do? We have a to-do list. So we follow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is even on the streaming. I have to have my to-do list. I gotta have it. It just makes me feel good. I gotta have talking point. I gotta have something that makes me feel like these are systems that help me. Now, for most people, that might be normal. But I need reinforcements. Okay? I need that. And when I'm talking to people or I'm at work, I need for people to provide me what I call chunking, right? Don't give me filler text. Don't give me the filler text. Don't be like, oh, we gonna do this, and this, and all this theory and just word bloat. You bloating it up with all these words and facts and theories and percentages, and I don't care about that. What are the action steps? I want to do the action steps, and I want to move on about my day. I am going to talk to you. I'm going to say, hello, how are you? But then after hello and how are you, keep it light on the how are you, and let's move on, right? Some people say that's like, I'm not a nice person, or I'm not sociable, or whatever. But it's like, when we're at work, we're at work. I'm trying to get this job done. I'm trying to go home. I'm not trying to be best friends with people that I work with every day. I'm here for a check. That's all we here for. Like, we have already compartmentalized this environment. So we can't give you too much emotion in this environment, because that's not what this environment is for. Now, when you start talking about, oh, we're family and all this other stuff, you're trying to mix and construe. And now I feel like you're trying to exploit because you want more work for less. You see what I'm saying? I'm not dealing with that. And that's why I don't need to be around everybody, and I don't need to be working in certain places, because I can't do it. I just can't do it. But thank God we have accommodations. So we need quiet environments, a short to-do list, nothing crazy. But they have a whole list of things that you can ask for, and that can be legal documentation. Yes, absolutely. Thank God for that. See, yeah. All right. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had fun. I don't want to make light of a bad situation, because I feel like mental health is very, very important in our community. I'm glad that we are talking about it more. We're seeing more visibility. But I really feel like, if you haven't gotten the help, or you haven't, and it's all personal preference, but don't take for granted your mental health. Don't take for granted your peace of mind. Don't take those things for granted. And you always have to do what you have to do for yourself. Okay. I have a mentor, and she tells me every day, or you do what you have to do. Because oftentimes we think we have to do things for other people. We have to prioritize everybody else, and we come last, even if are we even on the to-do list, And so it's important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, okay? So I will see you in the next video. We'll be talking about choose happiness. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.